Welcome to January's online session for Empowering Social Studies Teachers for Smarter Balanced Assessment. Our objectives for the month of January include taking a closer look at the big ideas that are coming up in your curriculum. The reason why we're going to look at that is because we begin item writing soon, and with the big ideas in hand, you're going to build an action plan for item writing in February, March, and April. I begin with a quick update on the College Career and Civic Life Framework for Inquiry in Social Studies State Standards. There has been a brief delay, which is why you did not get to see the standards last month. There is, however, a public review coming up very soon, and we've been proactive in exploring a relationship with the group that is responsible for the standards. They have assured us that they very much like what we are doing with Smarter Balanced and tackling the new standards, and there is an opportunity, probably hasn't been finalized yet, but probably for us to see the standards a little bit in advance of the public review and work with them, continuing on beyond the slated public review. What has been great to see, however, is the fact that your items that you upgraded in November are very, very close to what some of the standards within the framework look like. So without having them in hand, you very much, by focusing on depth of knowledge, came very, very close to assessing some of these new standards. So that's a good thing, and you should be proud of yourselves. So, our focus for the month of January is the big idea. The big idea is, of course, those big overarching themes or questions you want your students to be able to answer or explore in depth throughout the course of a unit and by a unit's end. These are the essential understandings that come from a lesson or a series of lessons. If you're using the Oakland Schools units, also known as the MC3 units, these big ideas are built right into the lesson plans that have been created as part of that project. So you see from this particular 7th grade lesson, the big ideas of one lesson are these 6 bullet points, that they're the 4 tools that historians use to organize information, including significant social institutions, temporal frames, and spatial scales. Historians use time to organize and analyze the past. Historians categorize time into different scales in order to study human activity over large periods of time. Eras and periods are ways of grouping human activities that share particular characteristics. The idea of time is a man-made concept. All societies need to account for time in some way. Different cultures created different calendar systems that suited their needs. And using time to organize the past helps to analyze turning points of human history and how different eras relate to each other. These are the big ideas of one lesson. And if you use the Oakland or MC3 units, you know that a lesson sometimes takes more than a day. So through the course of a multiple day lesson, they were able to hit those 6 objectives. And those 6 objectives could very easily be turned into some selected or constructed response questions. Big ideas are also the overarching question of a unit. These would be best assessed through a performance task or a extended constructed response question. For example, the same unit that lesson came from, that those big ideas came from, includes this as the overarching question for the unit. How can we know about the past? This in itself is not a performance task question, although you probably could ask it as a constructed response and get some pretty good answers. But this could be tweaked a little bit to include some items that then turn this into a performance task. So what if you're not using the Oakland or MC3 units? Where do you find those big ideas? Here are some suggestions. Look to your lesson plans. Look to your unit outlines if you have one. What's the big idea there? What should they come away from this particular unit that you're going to assess knowing? You can even look at the textbook. The chapters within a unit are organized obviously in chronological sequence, but there are some themes there. Does your textbook have a unit abstract? If you look at the beginning of the unit in your textbook, there might be a little blurb in the teacher's edition about it. Can you glean the big idea from that? Take a look at the theme amongst the chapters in a unit, even the sections within a chapter if you're doing a chapter by chapter test. You can also look to the Common Core state standards, as these have been buried into the new national framework in the C3 standards. The Common Core state standards, if you are familiar with working with them, lend themselves nicely to taking a primary source and doing something with it. Where does that primary source fit in with the unit overall or the chapters overall? Can you create a assessment item that addresses the Common Core? So those are some suggestions for finding the big ideas in a non-MC3 or Oakland setting. Here's what you're going to do. Looking in your lesson plans, whether they're written, whether they're in your head, whether they're scratched in desperation on a post-it note, we've all been there. Think about where you're going in the next few months. Jot down what you think the big ideas that are essential understandings for your student to come away from your lessons knowing. What are those big ideas that are coming up over the coming months? You're going to want to keep those notes handy, not just for this project, but also as a reminder to you, because if those are the big ideas, those are what you need to keep coming back to in your classes in order for them to be assessed properly. Then, you're going to create an action plan. So here's how we're going to do that. In thinking about those big ideas that you've identified, you're going to decide what form you might best assess them. You'll write a SR for selected response, CR for constructed response, or PT for performance task, depending on how you would like to see them assessed. Don't worry, you can change your mind. This is just to get the ideas out on paper, to give you a roadmap, and to eventually be posted in Edmodo so that you will be able to work within your individual groups to say, hey, I'm going to address this, and try to get a good theme going with your co-collaborators. When you head to your old buddy Edmodo, you're going to look for January work only step. It will of course have this video and underneath a chance for you to reply. You're going to post your big ideas and you're going to post the appropriate designation, selected response, constructed, or performance task. You'll do this in your individual groups. Please don't post this to the Edmodo page as a whole. If you do, I might be emailing you and asking you to repost it once more within your individual groups. Doing this is going to serve several purposes, like I mentioned. It's your roadmap. Now, we've all been on road trips where the journey doesn't go as planned. That's okay, but at least you have some ideas down on paper. And it also gives you and the people you'll be collaborating with some chances to work together on some similarly themed items. Again, the whole point of this project is that you're not an island. Utilize each other and try to come up with a good set of questions. And these are what we're going to be looking at heavily at our final in-person day in May. In remembering the C3 framework, students first, with this new framework in place, are going to be developing questions and planning investigations. And we're sort of walking you through that this month. The questions are, of course, coming up with your big ideas and planning from there. Then you're going to apply your own set of disciplinary concepts and tools to what it is that you're teaching. What's your content? This is where it comes. From there, you're going to spend time with your students gathering, evaluating, and using evidence, and going back to work collaboratively and communicating those conclusions. Going, of course, back to developing questions and planning investigations. I bring this up because these are the steps you're going through over the next few months. And these are the same steps that we're going to be asking students to do when the C3 framework is adopted by the state of Michigan. So, this month we've covered what's the big idea. We've talked about ways that you can glean information from your textbooks, lesson plans, etc. to come up with those big ideas that students should understand or grasp after a lesson or an overarching question at the end of a unit. We've also talked about your action plans. These are simply going to be posted on Edmodo and give you and your collaborators a chance to plan out where you're going to go over the next couple of months as we write items. So at this point, you've completed the module for January's online component. Remember to record 3 hours on your SBCEU log sheet. A quick note on that, I'm still working with LearnPort, but there should hopefully be a chance for you to register there if you're looking for SBCEUs at the end of this month. Next month, we start writing selected response items. If you're seeing this before the holidays, I hope you have a happy holiday season with your family and friends and a happy new year. And if you're seeing this after the holidays are over, good luck as you go through what is usually at some point in January the end of the first semester, the first half of the school year. You guys have come a long way. Myself and all of the other consultants that are running this project are really, really pleased with what we've seen. You guys are a great group, and I'll see you in January. Don't hesitate to email me if you need any help with your action plans. You can reach me at david.johnson@wmisd.org. Thank you.